everyone. Welcome to HOA Fight Club. I'm Raylene Schifano. I'm going to discuss today the reasons that a homeowners association gets sued. We look at, there's always anytime there's something that's wrong with the association, it's usually the homeowner that's called disgruntled, or it's because the homeowner did something. It's never anything that the board would ever do, or the property managers. It's always the homeowner. If there's ever a complaint, it always goes right to the homeowner, that it's the homeowner that's causing the problems. But what I found is the associations get sued because the board failed to do their duties. We have a lot of uneducated volunteers working in these communities. And if there's no governance over them, it's really easy for them to not do things correctly and for the professional agents to take advantage of them. So with no governance and oversight, they can kind of get away with everything. So when you buy into a HOA or a condo association, especially in the state of Washington, you get a resale cert. Now that resale cert is supposed to disclose everything. So all the stuff that's in the community and everything that is covered by the HOA, what bills they've paid, all that kind of stuff. When I received my resale cert, and I have the example of it here on my computer, and I'm going to share that with you because I think you guys should see these would make it easier. We are going to share my screen. All right, here we go. All right, so on my screen here, I have this document, and I'm going to make it bigger so we can all see it. This was part of my resale cert, and what it does, it talks about what's wrong with the association or what's right with the association, and what the projects that are being done and things like that. So this is, the board had at the time, I think there was like 3 or 4 homeowners. No, I take that back. There's about 7 homeowners that were in foreclosure, but there was no disclosure, even though pending suits, which the association should have to disclose any homes that are in foreclosure or being discussed with an attorney. If an attorney's involved, they really should have to disclose this in the resale certs. Because if I would have seen 5 homeowners upset and in foreclosure, it would have made me want to look further into the documents. Therefore, maybe I wouldn't have purchased my home in that neighborhood. They also had to disclose that who owned what. Well, they asked for if the declarant owns any units, but what they don't ask here is if the association owned any units. And at the time, the association owned 4 units, and they were never disclosed on this. They were also in the process of a re-roofing project. It started in 2013. Permits were never pulled, and no inspections were ever done. So they never disclosed any of this, though. They never disclosed that there was a re-roof in the process until after we purchased. My resale cert, of course, was fraudulent. They just gave me a resale cert from 2012. On the financials, everything had to do with 2012 and not for 2014 when I purchased my home. And as you go through, and I'm going to show you a few more documents because I think it's important to see these. This is what the board knew prior to my purchase. This is March 10th. I didn't purchase my home until August 15th of 2014. And it shows right here that the board knew prior to the purchase of my condo, and they didn't disclose any of it on the resale cert. And we showed you what they disclosed. They disclosed nothing, but they had a bunch of, homeowners. If I can pull this up, I'm going to see if I can pull this bigger, because I think it's important to see that we had all these homeowners that were in with the attorney. So look at this, C102, G110, all these homes were in it. And if you really go down to the documents and you look to the details, they had other things going on in these. This was their board meeting minutes. So you see how much they were disclosing at this point. They didn't want people to know how much was actually going on. And so they had sheriff sales going on. And so that to me is that's arbitration, litigation, attorneys. They should have disclosed it on the resale cert, but they did not. Of course they didn't, because they didn't want us to not purchase there, because they need homeowners to pay the bills. So they don't want anybody not purchasing, because they do want you there to pay their bills. They had a lot of pet projects going on. Now, the roofs become important in my case because they had a lot of water intrusion, and in my home there was tons of water intrusion that the board never disclosed there was any issues, but you could go through and see that they were having tons of issues with water intrusion issues and damage and repairs, and 15,000 here and 16,000 there. They even go as far as at the bottom down here to show that they had a insurance settlement, which was never disclosed, that there was even an insurance filing. So all of these things weren't disclosed, which hurts consumers when they purchase into these corporations, because of course they can't come up with all these special assessments to take care of problems that the board has failed to do. And I went back, remember I purchased in 2014, and here I go back to 2010. It was a letter to the village, or from the village, and it was to the homeowners describing the issues, that there was complaints against the board. Well, this board had been serving, when I purchased, it was the same board that was serving here in 2010. So the problems weren't just happening when I was there, it was happening prior. And this attorney that wrote this letter in 2010 was the attorney of record when I moved into my home. So she knew exactly what was going on in that community, and she was covering up for all the board's misdeeds. And that's where we have issues with, there's no governance or oversight. And we need to have those things because these people control our homes. So let's look at this. Here's an email from the board. Please do not send this letter to A104 Shafana. We've had enough backlash from this woman, and they refuse to participate in the project anyways. They were coming into our homes. They were causing damages. I was questioning them and the documents. And because I was questioning them, they were going to treat me different than all other homeowners, which is unconstitutional in the state of Washington. They have to treat me equal because I'm an equal owner. They had an obligation to restore. So the documents, the governing documents, the declaration required them to restore. So they didn't have a choice but to restore, but instead they drug this out for years to taunt me. We were put on the back of the list, or they would schedule us, and it was never fair. So when I gave them notice, they were like, well, we have to wait for the board meetings. There was no emergency that water was running into our home. So we were just treated really poorly. And once I started doing, complaining about, you've got to remember my damages happened after the $50 smoking violation. We had just settled this. So now all this work needs to be done on my home, and they weren't going to do anything. They were refusing to repair my home. Let's go through one here. They were taking it to the attorney. They wanted to review the letters from the Shafanos. Well, the letters were from me saying, hey, this is what the declaration says, but this is what you guys are doing. So they wanted to enforce the declaration on me, but didn't want to enforce it upon themselves, of course. So as we go through this one, then, as we're recalling the board and everything, they were hiring police officers to monitor us in the meeting because they were controlling my free speech to show the homeowners the damages that they were causing the association. They didn't want anybody else to know what kind of damage they were causing. They had hidden it so well for all these years, but you can see right here, if the matter does not leave, the meeting will be suspended until the police remove the member. The police don't have the right to be there to remove a member. We all are equal owners and have a right to speak. So again, our voices they're silenced because the board doesn't want you to see what they're doing. They don't want you to see, we'll bring up this picture, the flooding in our homes, the gutters, everything was in disrepair that they said was in perfect order when I moved in. They didn't disclose that the gutters were failing. They didn't disclose that there was tons of water and intrusion issues. They didn't disclose any of this at all. And until I came in, here you can see in my sprinkler, or this is the gutter, the water that's coming out of the gutter and then rushing up under our front door there. And then here's the last one. Here's the gutters failing. Now this happened for years. This was years of suffering. They never fixed my home. The person that owns my home now has the same damages as I did, and they just don't know it, because what the board did when they were done with me, they just covered up the damages and put a new floor in over the damaged concrete and just sold it as if it was all good. They probably didn't even disclose the loss. Well, I know they had to disclose that I was suing them. But of course, I was the disgruntled homeowner, right? That's what they were telling everybody. This is just another proof of that. They had to reschedule me and move me because they blamed me for the misscheduling, but it was actually their own employee that had misscheduled. And, she came back and she said, please forgive me. I goofed. And then here was another one, 2 emails, and they still put us on the back of the list because they didn't like us. They have that choice. They have that right to, just treat you poorly and put you on the back of the list because the board makes all the decisions. There's no fair and equal in HOA. So, and then I have a couple up here. I have another story I'm going to tell you at some other point about a girl that was in our community. But I think I'm going to wait for that one. I think I'm going to do a separate video for that one and give her own thing. I do want you to see that the reason that the HOA is getting sued was because the board picks and chooses who gets fined and who gets picked on and who gets the repairs and who doesn't get the repairs. The attorneys delay, deny, and deflect, and so does the property managers, and they're not looking at any of the evidence. None of the evidence matters to them. They just get paid to cause conflict. They get paid to delay, deny, deflect all damages, not repair. They know that the condo associations in Washington state the board is always responsible. The association's always responsible to repair, to keep the home values up. They can always go after a homeowner if they really think that homeowner is liable for those damages, but the association should always repair. That's why we pay our dues. That's why we're being charged special assessments. The attorneys should advise the board to follow the law, but they don't. That causes these associations to get sued. The board knows the property has the damages, but fails to disclose it. They are participating, colluding to commit fraud on a resale cert, which is property, which is the truth in lending. They should have to disclose, and if they disclose it inappropriately or fraudulently, they should be prosecuted for that. There should be damages in the law for people that hurt property values. The board allows the property to go into disrepair. They fail to get permits. They fail to get the licensed contractors. And then we wonder why these associations, why they're always in some sort of conflict, lawsuits. Homeowners aren't happy. Well, the homeowners would be happy if they knew that their money was going to what it's supposed to be going, not to attorneys. $38,000 in a year to an attorney is a little insanity. And that's why they got sued. I kept telling them, look, you're going to get the association sued because you're not following the governing documents. They're charging predatory fees. So this is what this is about. So the property manager, you will see here on this thing that the homeowner owed $95 in past due assessments. Now, these assessments was for the $50 for the plumbing inspection that they had to recall and repay us back for that. And then the other $45 was because he didn't know the association had increased the dues. They didn't send out any letters of that. So here's him trying, not understanding it, but look at the predatory fees, $750 in late charges, 150 in other fees. And then if you go down, they're bringing those balances forward and they're charging them more assessments. And then they haven't even shown him what the attorney fees. This homeowner ended up paying, I think, around $3,800 to get the lien off his house. Now, why are we trying to put people into foreclosure? That's what's causing these associations to be in the spotlight right now, is because they are not disclosing everything that they should, and they are getting the homeowners we are getting sued because of it. So when the association gets sued, it's not like the association just is scot-free from it. They have to charge the homeowners all the money for it. So the board never really pays for any of their damages. They get away for free. The board that did everything to me, they got away scot-free. Not one of them had to pay for anything. Most of them had sold their home. There was 2 board members that were left that didn't get out of it. They ended up paying whatever fees they were charged. But again, I want to warn you that the damages in this property are still here at that property. So the board didn't redo all the roofs yet. I'm sure that the damages, the water intrusion, all the roofs had to be repaired. It's just a nightmare. And they're not disclosing all of that before these homeowners move in, before I moved in. They caused their own damages because they lied in the resale cert to get me to purchase. And then when I purchased and was smart enough to figure it out, they didn't want me to be there anymore. They wanted me to go away, and they were going to force me to go away. They were allowed to harass and bully and stalk me. And they were allowed to do all of this with the attorney's blessing, because the predatory attorney wanted to get paid. And you know what? At the end of the day, she got paid. She got paid until they realized that the new board came in and thought, oh, this is the person that's been causing us all these problems. And they got rid of her. And guess what? The attorney fees dropped drastically. So if your association is spending a lot of money on attorney fees and those kind of things, that's a huge red flag that they are doing things. Go to the websites, especially the county website, see how many liens and foreclosures they're doing, because they're not going to disclose that to you. They don't care if you know, because there's no obligation for them to tell you and to be honest about it. And there's no accountability if they don't tell you what is wrong in that association, what's wrong in that community. Those reserve studies, they didn't give me the correct reserve study either. So of course that was fraudulent, which led me, all the damages that were exposed were not exposed until after 2012. And that's when the reserve study came out that I could finally see. And if I would have received that reserve study prior to my purchase, I went to purchase there just for that alone. I did go through the documents when I purchased the home. I made sure that there was enough in the budget. I got their spreadsheets. Their spreadsheets were fraudulent. They were from 2012. They were not the current financials, but they said those were the current financials to get us to purchase, to show that they had millions in the bank, which they had not. They only had a couple $100,000 when I purchased my home. And that's why the reserves are not where they're supposed to be, because the board was using the money for who knows what. I know that they were using it to find people into foreclosure. There's tons of them. You saw how many people at that point when I came in. Within the next few years, there was no liens and foreclosures anymore. I stopped a predatory HOA board, directors, property managers, and attorneys that were participating in committing real estate fraud to the homeowners, because that's really what it is. All right, you guys, these are my opinions, and I'll see you on the next one.